Hello everyone, and welcome to this final example video on linear relations involving transforming standard form into slope y-intercept form or vice versa. And in this particular example here, which involves giving a specific information which involves y or x and x-intercepts y-intercept, what we'll need to do is to be able to determine the standard form. And by determining the standard form, we need something, which is the equation of the line. And this equation of the line is in this particular format: y equals mx plus b. And we need to go from this second step here to the final step, which is the standard form, which is going to be expressed as ax plus by plus c equals to 0. So the key information here is as follows. We need the x-intercept, which is given as when x here is equal to -1, our y must be equal to 0. And y on the other side, we have our y-intercept, which means that when x is equal to 0, our y is equal to +4. So once we're able to recognize these two information here, that should be a big step in determining first the slope. And to determine the slope, we know that to determine the slope, we need our m to be equal to change in y over our change in x. And in here we know that a change in y means we're going to pick our y2, which is from our second point, and we're going to subtract here or minus that of the first point y, and on the other side we have our x2, which is from point 2, and this is going to be minus our point 1's x value, which is x1. So let's assign various points in here. So we'll make this our y-intercept here to be p2, which means that this here will be our y2, and this here will be our x2, and this here will be our p1, that is point 1, where this point here on the graph has x1 to be equal to -1 and our y1 to be equal to 0. So if we put in those values into the slope equation here, what we have as a result is our y2 to be equal to +4, and this will be minus our y1, which is equal to, in this case, 0. And the other one here is that we have to divide our result by our x change, and this change in x means that our x2 will be, in this case, to be 0, and this is minus our x1, and our x1 based on p1 is equal to, don't forget to be, put your bracket, -1. So as a result of this particular substitution into our slope equation, what we have here is that +4 minus 0 will give us +4, and below we have 0 minus -1, which will give you +1. And what we have as our slope, which is represented as m, is going to be equal to 4. So take note that to determine our slope y-intercept equation, we need our slope and we need our y-intercept, which means that in this case our slope is actually +4, which is equal to m, and our y-intercept, which represents our b, is equal to what is given in this question here, which is y-intercept to be equal to 4. So b is equal to +4. So what that means is that if you're writing our y equals mx plus b, this here is equal to m is what, 4. We put our x, and this is plus what, b is equal to positive 4. So that is our second step, which is to determine the slope y-intercept of that particular equation given the x and y intercept. So the next step here is to transform our slope y-intercept into our standard form, and to determine that, we are going to go through the same step we did on our previous video, where we're going to make these to be in this particular form: ax plus b y plus c is equal to 0. So in order to accomplish that, don't forget that we have to move one side of the equation over to the other side of the equation, so that one side will be equal to 0. And in here, what we can do for convenience is that I'm going to move my y over to the other side, which means that in this case, we have on one side here, we have to subtract both sides by y. So it means here that this will be negative y, on this other side to be negative y, and we're going to put our other y's. So in here we have our positive y, and in here is positive 4x plus 4, and what we have here is positive y negative y is equal to 0, and what we have here is that on the other side we have positive 4x minus y positive 4, and that is it, because in here we have our a, b and c to be non-fractions. So I'll just put fractions here, and our a here, which is the coefficient of x, is actually a positive value. So that means that 4 is positive. That means that we actually meet the criteria for determining the standard form of that particular equation. So that is actually it for this particular first example here. And the other example here is, what if you're given the fraction forms and you're asked to determine the standard form from our slope y-intercept. So in here we know that our x, which is our first point, or I would say x-intercept, I'll just write the short form, is equal to, when x is 4 over 5, our y is equal to 0, and our y here is, y-intercept here is when x is equal to 0, our y is equal to negative 8 over 15. So what we have here is that to find our slope, which is m, we need to find our change in y over change in x, and in here our change in y is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and in here our x2, which we're going to pick this to be our 0.2, and this we're going to pick to be our 0.1. It means that y2 will be negative 8 over 5 minus p, or y1, which in this case is 0, and over the other side we have our x2 to be equal to 0, and our x1 will be equal to positive 4 over 5. And take note that we're subtracting our x1 from x2. So as a result of that, what we have here is negative 8 over 15 over negative 4 over 5. So in this case here, this looks like division, and what we see here is 8 over 15 negative divided by negative 4 over 5, which means that changing division to multiplication, we're going to flip this next, or the fraction after that division sign, we're changing the denominator to become the numerator. So in here we have negative 8 over 15 times negative 5 over 4. So once we have that, we actually have our result, which is 15 here, or 5 here, divided by 15, which is 1/3, and 4 here divided by 8, which gives us 2. Don't forget the negative multiplied by negative will give you a positive value, and what we have as a result is m to be 2/3 times 1, which is equal to 3. So we found our m here to be equal to positive 2/3. So if you're writing your equation, which involves your slope y-intercept form, which means that we're going to write our equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. Our m we notice to be equal to 2/3, and our b in here is actually from our equation information here, where y-intercept is equal to -8/15, which means here that our b is equal to -8/15. That means here that our b is actually equal to -8/15. Positive times negative will give you negative. That means that this is our slope y-intercept form, which is written as that. So once we are able to accomplish that, our next step is to be able to determine in here the standard form. Standard form means that we'll have to rewrite this in the form of ax plus by plus c is equal to 0, which means that we'll have to move everything from one side of the equation over to the other side of the equation. So to make our lives short and great, we're going to move our y over to the other side, which means that you're going to subtract both sides by y, and in here we're going to do negative y is equal to negative y, and then we have our other information that we're missing, which is y, and on the other side we have positive 2/3x minus 8/15. So positive y minus y will give you 0. So we've gotten that out of the way, and the other side we have 2/3x minus y minus 8/15. So what we recognize here is that we have fractions for our a. So our a is a fraction, and we want to change it into a non-fraction, which means that we'll have to be able to multiply our denominator of our a by that same value, which is, in this case, we're going to multiply everywhere by 3. So which means here that in our first step here, we're going to multiply our inside equation by 3. So this here will be 2/3x minus y minus 8/15, and in here by distribution we'll multiply this by 3, multiply 2/3x by 3, multiply our negative y by 3, and multiply our negative 8/15 by 3. So what we have as a result is 3 times 0 will give us 0, and 2/3 divided by multiplied by 3 in this case will give us 2x, and on the other side we have 3 times negative y will give us negative 3y, and on this other side is 3 times negative 8/15. 3 divided by 15 is 5, which means we'll have 8/5. So in here we see that there is non-fraction for our a, but our c as well, we have to make it to be non-fraction or no fraction, which means that in this question we'll have to multiply by 5, which is the denominator. So the same thing you're going to do there is that you're going to multiply all this here by 5, and what we get is that you do the same thing we did over at the previous step, and what we get by distributive properties is that 5 times 0 will give you 0, 5 times 2x will give you 10x, 5 times negative 3y will give you negative 15y, and finally is 5 cancelling 5, so you're left with negative 8. So that is actually the final step and our final answer, which means that we were able to successfully transform our standard points, which are the y and x intercepts here, through the slope y-intercept form, and finally determine the standard form, which is given as this particular answer right there. So that's about it for this particular video. I know this video is long. Please hit the comment down below or send me an email concerning any questions that you might have involving various examples, and also there are various assigned questions from the textbook that you should be able to go through for you to be comfortable throughout this particular chapter that we went through. So all the same, please stay smart and believe in yourselves.